motivation in the classroom. Thorndike in 1913 was the first psychologist to document experimentally the link between learning and motivation. Now, his third law, the law of effect, states that learning is strengthened when it is followed by a satisfying state of affairs. Remember Thorndike's first law, law of readiness. The second law of exercise. The more you exercise, the better you can remember. Then the third law of what effect, right? So take a look at what the components of motivation. Right? So here, take a look at a simple definition of motivation. Something that energizes and directs behavior toward a goal. Something that energizes arousal, the need, and directs drive, to direct behavior towards a goal, right? So you have what arousal, direction, and then what maintenance, right? So the motive has what two identifying components, is that right? So the need, okay, that energizes, okay, and what directs behavior. Now, a need that energizes, some needs are actually based on some deficits within the person or within the individual. They can be what? They can be physiological or psychological. In physiological, some examples would be what? Deficit in water, the water, food, sex, sleep, warmth. Okay? So these are what physical deficits within the body. Take a look at psychological. Psychological, our needs for approval, our need for what affection, our need for power, our need for prestige, and so on. Right? So a drive, okay, a drive that directs behavior toward the goal persistently, right? Persistently. That's what we just saw what the maintenance aspect of it. All right, so let's take a look at different types of motives. Intrinsic motives are those that are satisfied by what internal reinforcers and are thus not dependent on external goals. Right? Now, competence motive, such as by Robert White. So that is the most fundamental human motive that is based on a strong personal drive to master one's environment. So that's competence drive. We are born with it. Remember our discussion, the early discussion of our physical development and our intention to explore our immediate environment. Right. The next one, curiosity motive. Okay, a motive based on physiological functioning of the nervous system. So it functions autonomously right from birth, and it never depends on food or drink. Now, take a look at what Harlow and his associates. I'd like to describe two experiments for you. So one monkey, I have that, yeah, look at this monkey. Okay, one monkey continued taking a complicated metal log apart for 10 straight hours. And the experiment was terminated because of what? Experimental fatigue. That's something, right? Now, another experiment by Harlow said a small peephole was made in the screen separating the experimenter from the monkey in order to observe the monkey to push a certain panel inside the cage with food as the one, the positive reinforcer. But when the experimenter tried to peer through the hole, all he could see was the eye of the monkey peering back. The peephole instantly became an object of great fascination for the monkey. So that is what curiosity motive. According to what a famous psychologist, Berline, he taught me, according to him here, is that when a person or animal is in a situation where conflicting responses are possible, a curiosity drive is touched off, and the person or the animal is motivated to seek further information just to satisfy that drive. No food involved, no water involved, okay, nothing. So Berline also believes that Berline, okay, here is what Berline also believes that there is an optimal level of arousal that is physiologically based. He sees arousal level as a function of brain excitement. Okay, if the arousal level is too low, the person or the animal may attempt to increase it by taking in new stimuli. However, if the arousal level is too high, however, the person will attempt to lower it, and the animal still will do that by reducing the stimulus input. Now, we now have learned that say performers, professional performers, they need certain how should I say, certain fear, optimal level of fear, optimal level of excitement before they could maximize their performance. Okay, so Berline was right on this, right? So we seek optimal level of arousal. So the quality of performance is the best at the optimal level. For simple task, okay, for a simple task, a higher level of optimal arousal. For complex task, requiring a lot of cognitive juice. So, and the optimal level will be lower than what than simple task. Okay, that's what Berlin. Okay, Berlin what found that out. All right. Okay. Let's take a look at one. So, extrinsic motive. Take a look at extrinsic motive. They depend on needs that must be satisfied by external reinforcement. Okay? So there are acquired motives like what? Approval motive. Okay? What is the approval motive? In the form of what? In the form of good grades, good stars, okay, a friendly, well done, okay, a pat on the shoulder, praises, smiles, okay, and you know that here, what here, peer appraisal, especially what we're looking at it in the classroom, is closely linked to the need for affiliation, especially under conditions of stress, and what with whom that appears to be competent and strong. Right? So let's take a look at a phenomenon called what? Called the ripple effect. What is it? A phenomenon in which a student seeking peer approval acts out in some inappropriate way. It triggers disruption by another and eventually by the entire class. This is called the ripple effect. Now, if that little ripple is not stopped, and we will talk about it when we discuss classroom discipline, okay? The ripple effect, and we will ripple, it will cause other students to act inappropriately. So the ripple effect is more prevalent in classroom where the motivation to learn is low, all right? So that is one. So with it teachers, teachers are more capable than not with it teachers in controlling ripple effect. Okay, with it teachers would have a firm hands on the wheel. Not with it, not with the teacher. It was simply simply let the situation run on for too long and allow the ripples to become tidal waves. So this is important to know. And once you become a teacher, you should learn to have a firm hand on those little disturbances. All right. Cooperate. I take a look at cooperation and competition. Two opposite motives. Right? Two opposite motives. So competitive motive is ingrained in our culture. However, cooperation is one more fundamental of the two motives. Bruner, remember Bruner, Jeremy Bruner, he says that reciprocity, which is the motive for working with others cooperatively, may in fact be built into the human species, built into our DNA, and that society itself developed as a result of this most basic motive. So that's what Bruno and what, and this view has been echoed by a lot of psychologists and even recently. All right. So let's take a look at cooperation. The pros and cons of cooperation. Here, of course, a more positive classroom atmosphere. And cooperation will lead to higher levels of intrinsic motivation, especially among those who are less able students. Right? Look at several cons. Okay, well, cooperation may help with the development of vested interest in one specialized role. And if someone is very good in doing something, then other group members will have to cooperate with this person, and that's what may help this individual to develop a vested interest in what his or her specialized role. Growth of in-group favoritism that may lead to discrimination against out-group members. Now, this is always the case. Okay. Within the group, people believe that they are better than those outside of the group. Right? So that is in-group favoritism. That's in-group favoritism. Right? So even in a lot of religions, you see this is the case. Okay. Number 3, evolution of excessive conformity and reluctance to question the majority opinion. Right here, you have lots of peer pressure, group pressure. Is that right? Peer pressure and group pressure. So that is not good, okay? Because here the group members tend to lose individuality. All right. So take a look at competition. The advantage here is that it spurs us on. We're trying to get ahead of other people. All right, so that's good. That's good. Society makes progress due to a lot of time due to competition. Cons, negative attitude toward teacher and school. So we are now confining our discussion within the classroom and school situation, and hostility toward fellow students. All right. So that is these are the pros and cons of cooperation and competition. All right. Achievement. Take a look at achievement. Achievement, it aims at emphasizing high level of ability and avoiding any display of low ability. All right. It most likely achievement motive, okay, most likely originates in the surface of physiological needs, okay, or at least in association with the need for approval. All right. So let's take a look at McLaren's notion of achievement syndrome. McLaren, known for his research in this area. Achievement syndromes characteristics here is to compete with a standard of excellence in mind. All right. And what to take, secondly, to take moderate risks, and thirdly, to make good use of concrete feedback. So at McLaren notice of achievement syndrome. So now, Horner, okay, all these characteristics here, the good thing is that they can be taught to underachievers. So we are not born with this. Okay, all these here can be taught. All right, Martina Horner, she identified two factors in creating lower levels of achievement, especially in women. Okay, especially in women. Fear of success. As I say, achievement brings with it many extremely unpleasant side effects. So fear of success. If I'm too successful, lots of problems that will follow, right? And fear of failure, to the point that the individual won't take any problem-solving risks. So that is problematic. Is that right? That is problematic. So Horner identified these here: fear of success, fear of failure in creating lower levels of achievement, especially in women. Unconscious motives, of course, is Freud. Freud deals with unconscious matters, unconscious to the human mind. So Freud stated that roughly 2/3 of all human motivation lie below the threshold of conscious awareness. I remember what the iceberg analogy, okay, is not even 2/3, is that right? Iceberg, we see iceberg only 10% of it, 90% below it. All right, okay. Take a look at repression. Okay? That is that is a very important phenomenon in Freud's theory. Repression is the exclusion from consciousness of anxiety-producing memories, thought or impulses. All right. Now, repression is repression is different from ordinary forgetting in two ways. The memory loss is total. That is to say, we remember nothing. All right, we remember nothing. Repression is always triggered by anxiety. Okay? And the forgetting is total. Okay? Now, of course, remember that Freud mentioned that we need to exert psychic energy to make sure that repression is underneath our consciousness. Otherwise, it will be like an iceberg. It will pops up, and you'll be able to experience it. Okay, so we require psychic energy to push it down, push it underneath consciousness. Okay, so presence somehow is the source of many psychological illnesses. And another one is called the psychogenic effect, okay, named after the researcher. Here, unfinished tasks are better recalled than finished tasks. So the thought of an unfinished assignment motivates the student in such a way that the memory is actually enhanced. Is that right? Do you feel it this way? Anyway, let's move on. Gordon Allport, functional autonomy. Motives originating from both psychological and physiological needs may acquire functional autonomy, in which the very act of satisfying a more primitive need may itself become a goal independent of any external goal or external reinforcement. I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let me think. Okay. A young boy will practice on his piano only if his mother gives him candy. So playing piano is thus dependent on the primary reinforcer of candy. All right. So then days in, days out, this scenario repeats itself. But then one fine afternoon, the boy begins to play not for the candy, but for the sheer joy of creating beautiful music. The motive for playing the piano comes to function autonomously and is no longer dependent on any earlier goal or any external goal, any external reinforcement. All right. So example, motives that have acquired motives that acquire functional autonomy is say achievement and approval. Right? So sometimes here we achieve something because of external reinforcer, but then the joy of achievement somehow takes over, so that we achieve not for the external reinforcer, but just for the joy of making or having achievement. Approval is the same. Right? Approval is the same. Okay, so we do something for approval, but then later on, after many times, okay, we do it without we do it here without having to receive approval. So here, approval, because of approval here, it has already acquired functional autonomy. All right. Okay, look at several approaches to motivation. First of all, the behavioral view of motivation. These views emphasize extrinsic motivation, of course, behavior, anything observable, all right, anything observable. So motivation is explained by what environmental events or physical conditions that stimulate what actions. For example, one hunger stimulus, the response is to eat. Okay. Reinforcement, okay. Reward, approval, punishment, you do that, you die. Okay. Modeling, you copy or you mimic other people's behavior. And another example will be external stimulus. Okay. Seeing an attractive person walking by, you are motivated to follow her or follow him. Peter Chow actually did this many times. Okay, seeing an attractive one, beautiful lady, I stopped everything and I followed her. Anyway, take a look at the second one, social cognitive. Two basic sources of motivation. Okay, it is from Michel and Bandura. All right. So let's take a look at the thoughts and projections. Okay. Thoughts and projections about possible outcomes of behavior. Okay, possible outcome of behavior. So these were thoughts and projections are affected by our own sense of self-efficacy. So self-efficacy is what Bandura's handiwork. It is what the spring child of what Bandura throughout many years. 1977, 1980, 1984. And Peter Chow has the self-efficacy paper completed and ready to be sent to the journal. All right. So self-efficacy is actually what our beliefs about our personal competence in a given area. All right. So the second one here, the active setting of goals. Okay. The goals we set become our standards for evaluating performance and influence. Okay. The amount of motivation we have to reach them. So it will influence the amount of motivation we have to reach them. All right. So goals that tend to enhance motivation and persistence. What are they here? All right. They are specific and clear. Moderately challenging and difficult. Therefore, what we will do that. Okay, we will do it. Attainable, can be reached. Reasonable, it's not out of reach. It's not something too far-fetched. So all these here, they tend to enhance motivation and persistence. Now, however, remember Berline here. Too high a goal is not attainable and serves to only decrease our motivation. But too low a goal is not motivating enough. Remember Berline, okay? We need to seek the optimal level of arousal. So this is social cognitive. Let's take a look at cognitive views. Okay, not only do people respond to external events or physical conditions like hunger, they also respond to their perceptions of these events and are motivated by the need to understand, the need to be competent, and also the need to be motivated by expectations of success or failure. All right. So all these here, they are what? They are Robert White's competence motives. Okay, they are Robert White's competence motive. So the cognitive views emphasize intrinsic sources of motivation. For example, curiosity, sense of achievement. All right. So let's take a look at what the attribution theories of motivation. Here, to make attributions about causes. What causes it? Why things happened as they did? Why did I flunk my exam? Right? So attribution theories of motivation describe how the individual's explanations, justifications, and excuses influence motivation. All right, so let's take a look here. Weiner, famous for his attributional theories. Weiner suggested that most of the causes to which students attribute their successes or failures can be characterized along three different dimensions. Along three different dimensions. So I'll continue in my next video. Okay, it is too long now. Okay, thank you.